Thank you guys for joining us today. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to the Colorado Restorative Justice Council, the Colorado Coalition for Restorative Justice Practices, and of course, my lovely Community Works family over here coming out and supporting. Yes, thank y'all. And of course, all the funders who support Modus Theater. Thank you. My name is Joaquin Mobley, and as of yesterday, I am the Senior Vice President of Community Works. Thank you. I'm also a monologuist in the Modus JustUs project and the JustUs project strategist with Modus Theater as well, where we create original theater to facilitate dialogue on critical issues of our time. We are excited to present to you stories from Modus Theater's JustUs project, where people who have experienced incarceration, such as myself, share powerful personal stories about the impact of the criminal legal system on our lives and our families. All Modus monologues were developed in a Modus monologue workshop with Modus's artistic director, the lovely Kirsten Wilson. Can we give her a round of applause real quick? And if this is your first Modus Theater event, you are in luck. Modus just won an award for Best Theatrical Programming by Denver's Westward. One of Modus's strategies to strengthen our community and country is to present performances called shoebox stories, where we ask people often in positions of public leadership, as you'll see today, in our communities and country, to stand in the shoes of Modus monologuists and read their story aloud. The readers don't need to agree with everything they read, absolutely not. They just need to be willing to suspend judgment, model courageous empathy, and see the world for a moment through someone else's eyes. Tonight, you will hear Judge Martín A. Gonzales, Colorado State Representative, the lovely Leslie Herod, Deputy Executive Director at Colorado Department of Corrections, Mrs. Ruth Coffman, Director of College Career Readiness and CTE for Harrison School District Number 2 in El Paso County, Mr. Woody Longmire, and Colorado State Senator Pete Lee, who couldn't make it here today, but he's here in spirit. Unfortunately, he got COVID, it's just running rampant, right? Yeah, so send some well wishes and some happy thoughts out to him. Model civic hospitality and deep listening by stepping into the shoes of Modus monologuists by co-reading aloud our stories. After the reading, they will reflect together on the impact of reading the story. Also, singing their powerful music in between each monologue are the nationally acclaimed and locally beloved musical duo, the ReMINDers. They are, let's clap it up for them. Going to be a lot of clapping tonight. They offer their music and restorative medicine for the monologuists as well as each of you in our shared aspirations for justice. And now, Modus JustUs monologuist, Mr. Brandon Wainright and Judge Martín Gonzales.
All right, y'all give it up one more time for Joaquin and all of our justice monologuists here. All right, once again, my name is Brandon Wainright. Thank you guys for being here today. I will be doing my monologue today with I'm gonna go ahead and say Judge Martín Gonzales, who will be joining me today to read my autobiographical monologue.
Thank you. My name is Martín Gonzales, actually, and I kind of insist on that because of my culture.
Excuse me,
but
Martín.
I do appreciate it, though. I am going to join Brandon today in reading his monologue. I chose to do this because in my position, I'm a retired district judge. I sat on the bench for 25 years. I sat on the other side of many of the situations that you guys are going to speak about today. It is a situation where if I were still on the bench, I would not be able to do because of some ethical considerations. But I'm now retired and now freer, and so I'm here to join Brandon to read his monologue entitled, Trying to Live, I Lost My Life.
At birth, I was named Brandon Marlo Wainright. That's the name my mother used. It's also the name that my teachers used in school. On the street, my name is Dub. D to the UB, or you can call me Young Black King. But on a serious note, let me tell you that 90% of the people from my hood are considered failures. And I'm supposed to act like I can't be part of the 10% because of the way you think of me and the choices I've had to make to survive.
I have a young mother, young father, brothers and sisters at home, barely food in the fridge or water, depending on if it was on. I'm surrounded by old heads and young'uns walking around with handguns, and they won't hesitate to let me know what they think of my honor roll ass if I can't fight. School is a kind of sanctuary, if you will, or a safe haven. It's like, look, I can be myself. I can be a nerd. I can be a thespian. I can do sports. I can do whatever I want while I'm in school because I'm living my life. This is how I want to live. This is how I want to live.
But outside of school, I put on a whole other mask. I fight, and I fight, and I fight. I am Dub. Me and my gang, we do what we do. Big time shoplifting, small time drug dealing. Like I said, in my hood, 90% of the people are considered failures, and they are the people whose approval I need in order to survive. And you might not like the guys I hang out with, but they are the only ones who have my back, and I have their back. Oh, I do. This is not the life I want to live, but this is the life I have to live.
Things became harder when I turned 16. I stood up for my brother against my father, and for that, I'm out of the house. I'm no longer his mouth to feed. From 16 on, there isn't anyone to give me a roof, clothes, food. I have to go and do that with the help of my gang, and that's why I said I had to live, find a way. And then I was losing my life because at a young age, trying to be an adult, you really can't have a life. You kind of have to give that up.
But still, I stay a star student, honor roll, state champ athlete, accolades after accolades. Against all odds, I still kept my cards. I kept my cards. And by my senior year, it is very clear I'm going to be part of the 10% that makes it. That makes it. Women, money, cars. I mean, I'm headed for the NFL. I have a full ride sports scholarship. I'm choosing the offers. And I just found out I was going to be prom king.
So with all this heading my way, did anyone ask me why on January 12th of my senior year, I shoplifted 6 video stores in one night? 6 in one night. Instead of working hard to prove what a terrible criminal I was, did anyone consider I might also have been a young man having a hard time and needing some help? Did anyone sit in a circle with me and say, Brandon Wainright, what were you thinking? 6 stores in one night. You must have known you would get caught. For a few $1,000s, you threw away a $100,000 full ride college scholarship. You're going to be part of the 10%. Why, Brandon?
No, they didn't ask. They charged me with robbery. They kicked me out of school. They made an example out of me. Nobody acknowledged that I had to be the best at being Brandon Wainright, star athlete and star student, to make the 10% and thrive. And that I had to be the best at being Dub, to have shelter, food, and survive.
They didn't acknowledge that I was locked in a terrible split that put surviving and thriving at war with each other. They acted like Brandon, the high school vice president of the Future Business Leaders of America, was a lie, and that I had finally shown my true colors, black, as if I was by nature and essentially a criminal. Nobody in the justice system or the school system cared enough to even ask why I did what I did. Nobody.
And, well, you know, it's a long story. Oh, it's a long story. But let me say, at the moment I made that decision, I was exhausted by the fight, and I didn't even care.
You want to know why I didn't care? Because that night I was hurting, and I didn't feel love.
You know why I didn't feel love? Because I wasn't getting it from the parents who I thought had made me their son. They didn't come to my games. They didn't care I was on the honor roll, that I was going to college, that I even had a scholarship, and they didn't have to pay for it.
And why wasn't I getting that love? Because I was living on my own at 16, away from the only home I had known. And because my parents were young, and they hadn't grown up with much love, and they were busy fighting poverty, fighting racism, fighting their own ignorance, fighting to survive themselves, and tired of fighting with me and struggling with how to raise a young black son in a place where the streets have so much power and a parent has so little.
Or you can just knock it down to the fact that where I was raised, you're either born with it or you're born without it. No matter what you apply that to. And I thought I'd rather be caught with it than without it. I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees.
I needed money to live, for food, shelter, clothes on my back, and maybe to graduate looking nice in the prom king suit I was going to buy with some of the cash.
Yeah, it's a long story. Let you slam into one righteous movie or gavel. And you would have to actually care about me to understand.
Instead of any help and support dealing with the challenges I faced, I got a lifelong label as a criminal and more obstacles to overcome. I was already tired, and the fight just got harder.
But I'm not giving up. I have two beautiful daughters, London and Anina. I have a handsome 2-year-old son. His name is Nasir, which means helper or one who gives victory. So everything that I do from this point on is for my kids and for my family. So they would never, ever go through what I went through, because I'm always going to be here for them, whether physically, spiritually, I'm always going to be here. Thank you.
Come on. And you know that you can count on me. Yes. Hey, I'll be there. And you know that you can count on me. 'Cause I'll be there. No matter where you are, I'll be there. I'm just a true friend, looking out for your best interest. No hated motive, sincerely care. Allah's my witness. As long as I'm here, you should never feel lonely. Just reach out, you know my love is really never phony. So whether in great spirit or a bad situation, we can share thoughts through any form of communication. Give you words of wisdom from divine inspiration. I never pass judgment and always practice patience.
And if ever you're in trouble, know you
got me.
'Cause we family in the struggle, so you
got me.
And I'm always down the ride, you can
call me.
When nobody's by your side, you know
I'll be.
And if ever you're in trouble, know you
got me.
'Cause we're family in the struggle, so you
got me.
And I'm always down the ride, you
can call me.
When nobody's by your side, you know I'll be.
Come on.
And you know
you can count on me.
'Cause I'll be there.
No matter where you are, no matter where you are.
And you know.
So I am glad to be here with the lovely Leslie Herod to join me to read my autobiographical monologue.
Yeah. It's an honor to be here. I'm State Representative Leslie Herod. I represent House District 8. I'm really happy to be here, especially because these monologues mean so much to me. They have inspired two, if not more, pieces of legislation that I have written and passed, specifically around driver's license revocations for non-driver's license related offenses and ending fines and fees for juveniles in the criminal justice system once and for all. Both passed. But most importantly, because these stories are not too different from my own, and of course we'll share a little bit more about that later. So now I'm happy to join Joaquin and read the monologue entitled Unhireable.
Thank you. It's late fall, 2002. I'm 18 years old. I'm full of strength and light. I tripped all the way from Washington Heights in Manhattan all the way to the last stop in Queens on the 7 train. I was down to my last. I traveled to Home Depot to be interviewed for a job. I was filled with hope, but cloaked in desperation. I walked in to meet my potential new employer. His name was Sheldon. We interviewed, and I killed it. I killed it.
I'm sure Sheldon felt my hunger. I detected his Caribbean accent, and I tried to find common ground, being that my father was from that part of the world, and I, too, was raised in that culture of hard work. He brought me in working there. He told me how much I was going to love that job and I would make good money. Sheldon then took my social security number and stepped back behind his desk to run it through his system.
I would not let myself feel anything but confident as he typed in the 9 digits that would determine my possibilities. I insisted on the image of him returning to me with his hand held out, ready to shake, and that I would return to my abuela with the reassurance of a new job. I had to. See, earlier that morning, I had been startled awake with the sounds of bachata music, sobbing, police sirens, and the soft conversation between 2 individuals outside my building discussing the terms and condition of the pre-purchase of narcotics. But those sounds are not what woke me.
The noise of my neighborhood had become my background music, and in a weird way, it helped me sleep better. I could usually drown out even the loudest of those sounds. But that morning had been different. Something was wrong. There was no sweet, beautiful aroma of fried yucca, eggs, and onions that my abuela makes for me and my abuelo every morning. Nor did I hear the sound of Telemundo coming underneath the bedroom door.
When I opened the door to my room, still halfway asleep, I discovered that the sobbing sound that I had grown immune to was not coming from outside, but it was coming from inside our family living room. It was my abuela who was sobbing. I ran to her side and I kneeled down in front of her and asked her, ¿Qué estás pasando, abuela? She handed me 2 letters, one from my abuelo stating that he would not receive Social Security for another year, and another from public housing informing my grandparents that because I was on probation for a felony drug conviction, I had to leave my home or my entire family would be evicted. It's amazing what a day brings and takes from us in our poverty-stricken communities.
Just the night before, I had a feeling of stability and hope. After all, I had an actual interview for a job. Do you know how many applications an 18-year-old black man has to fill out before they even get an interview? It was going to happen. My baby's mother needed money for diapers and food, and I was going to have it.
That's right.
But now, looking at those letters and my grandmother sobbing, the challenge was overwhelming. I didn't need just enough to support my kids and, start college. I now needed enough for rent, a security deposit, utilities, or simply hold the possibility of being homeless.
And I had to figure out how to help my grandmother pay her rent with no Social Security coming in. So, once again, despite the vision that I had gathered for myself, in jail, getting a job, making it to college, staying out of the drug game, I was having to consider going back into it and possibly risking my freedom and my life. In the last year, I had already lost 2 friends, murdered over rivalry for selling territory.
Trying to stay strong for my abuela, I kissed her on the forehead and walked away to prepare for my interview at Home Depot in a new state of mind. One now heavy with both threat and despair. But you can't let people see that and think that they're going to hire you. I showered and dressed and used every item of clothing I put on to build me up, to regain my hope, so I could get on that train and feel it all somehow working out.
So there I was, sitting in Sheldon's office, practically praying when his head finally reemerged from behind that computer screen. But by just looking at his face, I could immediately tell that everything had changed. I was now dead to him, or at least untouchable. He didn't even look at me. The numbers had rolled out and I was officially unhirable.
I started talking fast, trying to regain my ground. I told him I could be on a probationary period or something like that, or I told him that I needed this job to take care of my kids. I shared what I was up against economically. He was unmoved, and his response to my sob story was just, sorry.
But I wasn't going home without a job. Please, Sheldon, listen. I am trustworthy. I am an honorable man. I'm asking for a shot, an opportunity, a chance. He just looked at me, impervious to what I was going through, and asked me to leave the premises.
I left not only the premises, but I left New York City. My mom lived out in Colorado Springs, and I hoped to find work through her various connections and stay out of the drug game. When I got to Colorado, I was surrounded by job offers in the community, but none of them were legal. Did you know, according to Brookings Institute, a black man without a criminal record is less likely to get called back for a job than a white man who checked the felony box?
So I went to prison in 2006, and I was given twice the time for the same crime as the two white men who went up in front of the judge before me. That startled me awake. Even more than the cries of my abuela, I was awake and angry with the injustice of it all, and fierce with the intention of alchemy to take all the steel, the concrete brutality and disregard that they gave me as they gave my DOC number 147388, and I turned it into my own armor. I may have to fight to survive, but I will not be your entertainment. I am not your victim. I will not let you make me your victim.
So every day, I gave myself a new challenge to help me keep my focus as well as my sanity. First, I built up my chest and my biceps.
And then I learned how to read and write in the language of my abuelos, Spanish.
After that, I learned to read Arabic, the language of the black leaders in prison who were resisting with self-respect, self-love, and prayer.
I re-enrolled in college and got several certifications despite all the obstacles to getting my education in prison.
And even with this arsenal of strengths, it was hard to stay out of prison when I was finally released.
They let me out with just $10 in my pocket, no fresh clothes, and no hope. I almost didn't make it, despite my nearly 10 years of preparing for that very moment.
But I made it, and I'm here. And now I'm a leader in fair chance hiring initiatives. I work to support people coming out of our prison system, guiding them as they take the skills they learned in illegal economies and transform themselves into entrepreneurs with legal opportunities. Because this system wastes our brilliance. Thank you.
Every breath I breathe, every word I speak, every note I sing is a prayer for you and a prayer for me to be strong enough to live for both of us. Though you're gone, you're so alive in me. In my dreams, I get to see ya and touch ya and hold ya and love ya, but never long enough. Because I miss you all the time. I will never forget you. This is a message that I send you from my nothing lasts forever, forever, forever. They say nothing lasts forever.
Love can last forever.
I don't care what they say. I will love you for forever, forever, forever. I will love you for forever. Love can last forever.
Wish that I can tell you how I live by the examples you set. Respect the plan of the Creator, I won't ever forget. All the love and strength you've given me, I'll pass it on and pray often, waiting for our reunion. I'm thankful for the blessings and the lessons in this lifetime. Cherish the memories you left behind. My heart is broken, can't believe that was our final goodbye. I try to smile and sometimes I cry.
I love every moment I have with you, and I am hurting because I miss you all the time. And I will never forget you. This is a message that I send you from my heart.
And they say nothing lasts forever, forever, forever. They say nothing lasts forever. Nothing lasts forever.
I don't care what they say. I will love you for forever, forever, forever. I will love you for forever.
Love can last forever and ever and ever.
And I will always love you.
And I will always love you.
And I will raise you up.
And I will raise you up.
And I will always love you.
And I will always love you.
I will raise you up.
And I will raise you up.
Oh, 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 oh.
And I will always love you.
Oh, 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 oh.
And I will raise you
All
up.
right, thank you, Joaquin, Representative Leslie Herod, and the ReMINDers for that lovely song. That touched my heart. It's a godlike energy in the room right now.
My name is Woody Longmire. I'm with Harris School District 2. I support the Panthers and the Stallions. I'm happy to be here today for a couple of reasons. It's like coming home. I understand. Because once you're something, you're always that. I'm an alcoholic, but I've not drank for 34 years. Since my 2-year-old daughter at that time told me, "You don't smell like my daddy with that stinking stuff." I'm also a convict. I spent 2 years incarcerated in Alabama. One thing that I'm proud of, though, is that the governor at that time is the same governor that signed my GED, George Wallace, while I was incarcerated. But now I can proudly say I have 5 college degrees. And 2 of them being master's degrees.
Okay.
And I'm about a dissertation away from a PhD. So this monologue of his today is apropos. Don't you lecture me. And now for my brother Astro.
Thank you, brother. The system doesn't make sense. And we don't understand it. And if you think about it, outside of a lens of racist justification that says it's normal for 1 out of 3 black men to end up going to prison, then you won't understand it either.
We work hard, too often at low-paying jobs, only to be chased and locked up like exotic beasts. And then we get told, "You're useless, you're worthless." The system actually does that to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a system without empathy in which they can judge you like they want to. They can enslave you like they want to because you're never going to be free. Well, maybe some people, but not you. Not me. Not he who has been convicted, because now he is lower than his peers, or maybe no conviction needed. It's just because you are black.
Yes, I'm awake to the injustice, the racism, the lies. But I am trapped. They waste us. They use our talent for surviving outside of legal opportunities of economic gain for their entertainment, and I am not entertained. I am not entertained.
I want out of this Coliseum, but I'm trapped like everyone here with me. Even though I have so far escaped the prison game, but there's no escape when you come from poverty, because I am my brother's keeper. And if the jail keeper has my brother, then I too am caught, like my cousin is caught.
You see, my cousin is like my brother. We are all we have. We got arrested for this messed up trespass charge in this small town in Texas. And I knew, being in that small white town, that it didn't matter that there was a good reason we were there. It just wasn't going to look good regardless.
So I paid somebody to get me in front of that DA before the date came for the court appearance. And when I talked to the DA, he dropped the whole case. He got to meet me personally. He got to hear the whole story. He got to be surprised by an eloquent black man.
Mm-hmm. But he didn't get the chance to meet with my cousin because my cousin had a public defender. And it's crazy. The job was really to protect, defend, serve, and give you what you deserve. Then they would have said to my cousin, I see, obviously, there's a mismatch here. This should have been dropped. But they didn't say that, even though we were on the same case and it was dismissed.
He still went to jail. He still got parole. And that one event stopped his life for years. He wasn't able to get a job in the area, but he couldn't move because that was where his child lived. And so it instantly made him stuck. He didn't want to live with his parents. He didn't want to crash from house to house, but he had to suck it up, do whatever it takes just to make a buck to feed his kids. He's stuck. And seeing his pain, and like seeing my pain, every time I saw him needing something from me, it's, dang, like now I need something too. He needs something, so we need something. Because he's hurting for cash, now we are hurting for cash because I'm his brother.
And it's not his fault. It's not like he doesn't want to work. He's smarter than a lot of people that are in college right now. And he can't even finish his degree because he's too far away from a school and he doesn't have a computer and stuff like that. And it sucks because some people are just given that shit and they waste it. I see these white kids all around me getting their tuition paid for by their parents, getting their dorms paid for by their parents, getting cars, clothes, money, extravagant things, luxuries that my people wouldn't even dream about.
And everywhere there's this moral lecture coming from the criminal justice system, the school system, and the media about knowing right from wrong. And I'm working my job and going to college hoping that will get me out of poverty. But really, what are my chances of making it out? Because statistically, black men don't make it up the income ladder. Brookings Institute 2018, it's a fact. Check it out. For us, there's rarely any ladder. Just a lot of unexpected slides into prison. So don't lecture me on doing it right. Don't you dare lecture me.
I grew up watching my mom struggle after doing everything right. She is noble, she is fierce, a black woman impregnated with me at 16, and she still managed to graduate high school. And my grandmother, she too, a single parent, the product of foster care. She did the best she could for my mom. And my mom would wash clothes and work at a daycare, so there was a place for me while she drove 60 minutes every day to get to a school so she could get that degree, an advanced degree, so she could become an elementary school teacher.
And when she moved back to her hometown with her expensive degree and wanted to work for the elementary school she had once attended, she was turned down for the teaching position because they said she was underqualified. They told her she could be a teacher's aide. An aide? You know that hard work we lectured you about when you were a kid attending this elementary school? You know that education we told you that you had to get in order to prove your worth? It is worthless to us. Get back to the fields where you belong.
Well, she didn't go back to the field because the next school in town that she applied to told her the opposite, that she was overqualified. Overqualified. Yeah, I was there. But you know, we all know this. There's no money in the education field. Here in Colorado, we only spend $7,000 a year on each student's public education and $49,000 incarcerating each inmate. The whole game makes no sense.
Can we just give another round of applause for those beloved brothers? I mean, he said, I have 5 degrees like it was natural and normal.
Oh, yeah.
I had to hold my damn in. I was like, damn. He owns the school now. They need to name it after you. So this song is about the fact that we have to walk 10,000 miles sometimes just to get halfway.
And that's why even today it's been impressive to watch 2 people read the same monologue. My daughter was like, so wait a minute, are they reading the same story? I was like, yeah, it's the guy on the left story, but they're both reading it, right?
My friend said it's like watching the future and the past.
Straight up.
Right, watching y'all 2 up there. It was like,
straight up.
One day you gonna be up there like, I have 5 degrees.
Straight up. And this is what this
is about. That was you from the future
Listen.
visiting you. That was a Back to the Future straight moment.
And this is what this is about. Hey. It's been a long journey. And we still going. Hey. Oh. Hey.
Check it out, listen. I have walked 10,000 miles. I can walk 10,000
Keep walking, I'ma keep walking.
I have walked 10,000 miles. I can walk 10,000
Keep walking, gotta keep walking.
Who put the stars in the night sky?
Light is a guide.
Peering through the darkness, that these billions of eyes, the beauty of the put the moon in the sky.
Controlling the time.
Emotions that we feeling inside. Who was holding you
and molding you to show you the way.
I never doubted you for a moment. Golden spirits take the symbol as an omen. Holding tight to the hand of the Creator.
The time is now, never later. The time is now, never later. The time is now. The time is now.
Never later.
The time is now.
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 Later, bro.
Bare feet, hair covered, walking in the desert, not looking for a way home. Thirsty for wisdom, wishing for sunshine instead of dark cloud. I contemplated things I never say out loud. Made mistakes I came to skip a high from. Locked myself in prayer chambers for hours with no distraction. Find balance through pain and transformation. No, I'm not a saint, I had to beg for repentance. Learn how to sit back and watch it roll in silence. Gain status, cause I speak what I practice. Vision blurry, living life in a hurry. Recognize my impact, took control of my destiny. I travel through time and I find my life.
To introduce myself, my name is Dereck Bell. I'm a hip-hop artist, I'm a songwriter, I'm a poet, and I'm an entrepreneur. I did 10 years in the federal penitentiary. And I'm here with Ruth Coffman, Deputy Executive Director of the Colorado Department of Corrections.
All right, and now Dereck Bell's autobiographical monologue entitled Belly of the Beast.
I didn't know what led me there. It was 2 a.m. I was parked across the street from the prison. I didn't know I was driving to the prison until I actually arrived. I didn't know I was praying until I heard my own words. Stay solid, stay solid.
I've been out of prison for over 7 years, but it is easy to go back there in so many ways. I'm not going back, but sometimes on the street I'll walk by somebody and smell jail, and it's like I'm right back inside and I have to pull myself together.
You see, most people who spend any time in prison, we never know when we fall asleep if our dreams are ever going to take us back. You know, we wake up screaming, open our eyes, hoping to see that our nightmare is over. We were spat out from the belly of the beast back into the streets. But that beast is now inside our belly. And we do the best we can because you never know what that day will bring, any day.
I know I never wanted to be a gang member. I never wanted to be associated with drug dealing. I never looked up to that stuff, but I ended up putting my energy into the wrong person. In 2002, I was just out of high school, working full-time at a computer store, going to college in computer science, when I got a call from this guy that I met in my early days. We met bagging groceries in the commissary when our parents were in the military, and we latched on to each other.
We would go to parties back in high school. There would be times when we get in fights, and I literally fought his fights. Not because I thought he was going to get beat up, but because I wanted to show him that you got a brother through thick or thin, no matter what the situation is. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I guess I always wanted to be like my dad. He was intense. He fights you, man. He fights you for looking at you wrong. But at the same damn time, he gave everything to you without a question. He was loyal. He was strong. Also, he was in the military, so he knew a thing about fighting for his brothers.
When my old friend called, I hadn't seen him for years. But when he showed up, we were right back with each other. Those were some of the best times of my life. We were inseparable, even dated women that were friends. So when he wanted some help with his business, I was all about it. I had the skills necessary to make all the money from the drugs he was selling. Hide. I wasn't planning on getting into drug trafficking, but I turned my world from something legit to a throw-off for my friend and, well, for the love of money.
The first thing we hear about drugs is what? Addiction. We don't hear much about how addictive selling drugs is. In that year, 2023, I went from ashy to classy. Okay? From counting pennies to having rolls of thousands, or hundreds in my pockets, from driving a 1988 Toyota Camry, it was all blue with a hubcap spinning. Remember the spinning? To driving a 2000 GMC Envoy, from being treated like a nobody, literally to a somebody in the snap of a finger.
And I'm just coming out of high school, and there's no longer a teacher or coach asking good questions about what I'm up to, because they know you. They know you want to build something gracious. Do you want drugs to be involved? Hell no, I didn't want drugs to be involved because I knew it was harming people. But the money, it's just like drugs, it's an addiction. And because I wasn't selling the drugs myself, I could put it behind me like, okay, I'm not gonna worry about the people harming themselves. I'm gonna make sure that me and him put our money in the right places where we are able to help invest in the community. So,
one morning, he calls and tells me that he's getting a little paranoid about the people he's meeting at Walgreens. He thinks they're going to rob him. He says, "Can you cover for me?" Since we were kids, I literally fought his fights. So I showed up for him at the Walgreens parking lot, and immediately it was a bust. I was arrested. And in the process, I was shot by the police multiple times. And when I tried to run, they ran me over in the truck, causing my foot to get caught in the axle.
And then they handcuffed me on the gurney. And as I lay in my hospital bed, they interrogated me, trying to get information on him. They didn't care I was in intensive care, and I refused to say anything. And for that lack of information, they pretty much gave me the hammer.
I thought by me keeping silent, I was saving his life. I saved him and a number of people. No one went to prison but me. I took everything they were going to charge everybody. I took everything, man. And just took all those cases and put them on me, all on the simple notion as this, that he will do the same thing for me. It was only later I discovered that I was actually set up. The case was all on him, but he knew if I showed up, his best friend, the person who fought his fights, they put it all on me. I was not charged as the accountant on the drug state case, but labeled a mastermind, drug trafficker, and immediately sent to federal housing.
And the fact is, I was guilty of hiding a major drug scheme. I had misplaced my loyalty and courage on the wrong person for the wrong ends, and I had been lured into denial by money and the desire for a true brother. I had hurt people by selling drugs to my community. Of that, I was guilty. But why is it that I can be sent away for a decade on a nonviolent drug charge, and yet the DA and prosecutors who sent me into that prison of violence and assault are presumed innocent? Because they know what is going to happen to you in there. They know what is going to happen.
Nah, I knew nothing about surviving no environments, no prison politics. I ain't nothing about stuff, man. I knew nothing about it. But I did know if you come attack me, put me in the center of brutality, you try to assault me, I'm gonna do the best way I can to avoid you from putting any harm to me, so I'm gonna do what I need to do. I'm gonna beat the hell out of you. Not because I wanted to show out, because I wasn't into violence for violence. I was a ball player, man-to-man fighter, just like my pops, man. Strictly driven off of loyalty. You know what I'm saying?
But they sent me into that evil place, and it is crazy in there. 1 minute there's a group of men standing in a circle, and then, damn, that man got his eye taken out. You know what I'm saying? He got hit in the face with a Loch Ness sock. What the hell is going on here? I don't want my head slammed into a concrete desk. I don't want to kill nobody, but I don't want to be killed.
Every chance I got, I was calling my mom. Get me out of here. I don't want to be. Call anybody. Call lawyers, DAs. Get me out of here. It's crazy in here. I was on my own in the feds. No gangs, no protection. So a few men tried to number me up. They got me in the cell. Looked at all of them. Somebody's about to get hurt. I know I'm about to get hurt, but someone's going to take one of these, one or two. But you know, one of them still ran on me, probably before I had their chest out. I did what I needed to do to survive.
And if a corrections officer had not seen enough of what had happened, I'd been willing to speak up for me and say it was self-defense, I would be in prison right now for attempted murder. And even though I was determined not guilty, the criminal legal system still took away my innocence because they put me in a position where to survive, I had to stab a man in the neck, and his blood was just pouring out of his body all over me. All over me. And it should be all over the judge, DA, and prosecutors, them too.
That's not the worst of it, though. That's far from the worst of it. Do you know how much the system actually kills white, black, Indian, and Mexican people? Kills them mentally. You know, being good kids, not really that much training, sent those to those environments are one mistake. By sending them to prison, they have already killed someone, but the DAs, prosecutors, judges, they don't get charged for that, of knowingly being fully aware of these environments.
And it's not just the inmates. What do you think happens to the corrections officers? At one point, it was their first time seeing it, their first stabbing, their first rape. You watch the new ones, the green ones, how the longer they are there, the farther away they are from themselves. They become lost too.
We're all locked up in the belly of the beast. We're all locked up. And when you leave the beast, and it's still inside your belly, and they point at you and they judge you, and they look at you. They say that pit bull is dangerous. He bites. Look at his prison file. He's a monster. And they take no responsibility for that pit throwing you in it. No responsibility.
Well, I take responsibility for myself and what I have to do to not lose myself or give them an excuse to send me back. And I pray for me and for everyone in that prison. Stay solid. Stay solid.
I'm going to do a quick call to action. All the males, will you please stand, please?
Because we are not their beast. We are unknown to them in mental capacity and ability to adapt. Deep inside us, we are sharp business owners, multitaskers, entrepreneurs, loyal brothers, and strong fathers.
It is true. The beast we've been fed may be in our belly. We all have some type of demons that's inside of us. And it's hard for us to fight. And it's hard to control, but with the necessary amount of guidance, amount of power, and amount of love, our true spirit will emerge beyond its teeth. And that spirit is not impulsive. It is not reactive. We don't go off of that. We go off of true purpose and broken pieces. We're a puzzle. It takes a lifetime to put it together. By experience, and it gets stronger by the day of new learning. Stay solid, stay solid. I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you.
There's a part where the brother Dereck said, you go into the belly of the beast, and when you leave, the beast is still in your belly. In my mind, like, brother, you got a way with words. I'm so glad you're doing this. This is what you're supposed to be doing. I hope you feel that. How can we just please give another round of applause, please? And that's what I was talking about, some of the things we don't have the ability to endure. I mean, the fact, I always think of this brother. This is the type of brother that if you are aspiring for something and you do anything off the path of going towards that thing, he's going to be there like, not this way. You're right. I'm back over here. I'm back in school. Good to see you, though. Right? He wants good for you. He wants good for you. And last time we were here, I was talking about when these brothers are telling their stories, we don't want to feel pity. There's no power in pity. There's none. Because pity induces guilt, right? Which induces shame, and shame is inactive. It inspires no action, right? If you want something for somebody, don't feel bad for these brothers. Don't feel bad for people. Want good for them. Because wanting good for somebody inspires action. It does more than feeling bad for them will ever do, right? And remember, the love that we show people is the love that they'll eventually show themselves, right? We might be their only reminder of their goodness. So let's be conscious of that when we interact with each other.
If your head's hanging down, baby, lift it up.
If your reflection is telling you you're not enough,
Remember, love for yourself is the greatest love, the greatest love, the greatest love. If your head's hanging down, baby, lift it up.
if your reflection is telling you you're not enough,
Remember, love for yourself is the greatest love, the greatest love, the greatest love.
Have you ever buried something so very deep inside yourself that you've been looking for it ever since?
Yes, yes.
Have you ever had to live a life so down and dirty that you don't feel worthy of your compliments?
Yes.
If you have, then you feel me and I feel you, and we two are cut from the same cloth. We're still soft, but our embellishments are falling off, and strings hang from the seams, so we have holes where we are spilling out and leaving pieces of our broken hearts behind us on the streets. Parts where we're so sharp, we even cut ourselves, and it's hell to be a stranger to yourself.
Self.
But the bottom line is, you're not alone on that island. If there's no one else beside you, I am. Let's make a paradise and bet it all on us. These bars around my heart look
Just like yours.
Two strangers in cages we built to keep the hurt out. But we're prisoners now, and of our own making. We're way too clever.
So let's escape together.
You are the greatest destination
Any words can reach.
And the Creator speaks to us through
Creativity.
You get the message, signed so then delivered. Forget about me.
It's the message that you must remember. It's the message that you must remember. It's the message that you must remember.
Forget about us.
It's the message that you must remember. If your head's hanging down, baby, lift it up.
if your reflection is telling you you're not enough,
Remember, love for yourself is the greatest love, the greatest love, the greatest love.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Daniel Guillory, and first of all, if you notice, everyone had a co-reader. My co-reader was Senator Pete Lee, and he's going on with the, they said my hat is blocking the view. So he's having COVID challenges, so I just want to give a special shout out to him and Lynn for they've been very instrumental in helping the Modus Theater at all. So the title of my monologue is Truth, Not Facts. The last time I went to jail, I had been in there for about 18 months while I was fighting my case. I called my mom. I said, yo, Mom, you guys want to come and bond me out? And she said, well, let me discuss it with your sisters and see if we can come up with the money. So, of course, she talked to my sisters, and, of course, they said, no, Ma, we ain't in it. He's going to get out and go straight back to the dope like he always does, so count us out. So my mom said, son, I'm going to come and get you. So she went and got a loan, and she came and got me out. I was strong in the word, and I meant what I said. I was done with crack. After my mom bailed me out, I went to pick up my car that had been impounded during those 18 months while I was in jail. After they arrested me, they searched my car up and down. I mean, they tore it up. I had a pretty nice little caddy. They pulled everything out of it that wasn't locked down, but they didn't find any dope in it. I was finally arrested for the drugs that they found on me. At any rate, I drove my car home. I was slowly putting it back together when I found a pipe and a big old rock right under the front seat. And I'm thinking, are they trying to set me up? I mean, they had searched my car up and down, even looked inside of my spare tire. And here the dope was right there in clear sight, right under the front seat, just as clear as day. I picked that rock up and that pipe, and I slid it in my pocket. I say to myself, I ain't gonna smoke that, but I didn't throw it away. Later on that day, I succumbed, and I broke that thing, and I hit it. Man, and I mean, Scotty beamed me up like never before. And I'm telling you, as soon as I hit it, before I even exhaled, here comes my mama driving right down the driveway. She came home, and she saw me. And I saw the tears in her big old brown eyes. I said, Mom, I bet if you'd have knew this shit, you'd have left my ass in there. And she said, she looked at me and she said, no, baby, I still would have come and got you. You know, even to this day, when me and my mom were very close, even to this day, that it makes me very emotional. Just recalling those words. No, baby, I still would have come and got you. Oh my God, you could have kicked me, cussed me out, but that kind of blatant love, it makes you butt naked, raw, vulnerable. It makes you defenseless. Anything else I could have handled. Come on, bring it on, you're a liar. You're a failure, you're an addict, you're just like your daddy. Is that all you got? Come on, man, I can handle that. But that love and that grace, it lays you out butt naked, no clothes on. Oh my God. That was the pivotal point that made me begin to look differently at myself. I mean, that's the thing we gotta convey to society. It's when a person is broken, messed up, and deserves love the least. That's precisely when they need it the most. And that grace is the thing that will give people that 360-degree turnaround right there. You know, the key is helping people remember their importance, helping them to understand their own magnificence, to help them to reach their potential instead of punishing them. But the criminal justice system takes our shortcomings and our faults and they magnify them. That's all they look at. They take the smallest part of us and they make it the big the biggest part of our existence, when all this other good stuff is sitting right there inside of us as well, just waiting to grow, but it's never been put in a fostering environment. And then instead they send us down a dark tunnel into a place of violence at every intersection. A gladiator school where you learn to place magazines around your organs, around your waist in case somebody tries to shank you. You learn always to step completely out of your trousers when you sit down to use the bathroom. And when you act out in that violence, they send you further down the hole where there are no people, just overflowing toilets, madness, and isolation. If you drop an oak tree seed into a concrete world, it's alive in there and vibrant, but it's not growing because it's dormant. But if you take that very same seed out of that cold concrete world and drop it into a halfway decent place where it could possibly get sun and nutrients, you don't even have to plant it, just toss it over there where it could possibly grow. That thing would take off on its own. The fact is, all of us in prison are human beings who committed crimes, but that is not our truth. We are not ontologically criminal. That is not our essence. And instead of helping us return to the full truth of who and what we are, the criminal justice system, they take away our names, they give us DOC numbers, they rob us of our dignity and freedom and happiness, and most of all, they take away the potential to be our best selves that we could have been had someone tried to nurture us instead of neuter us. And how can it change as long as the criminal justice system itself continues to lie about what it's doing to us? They give us a piece of paper that says the court is sentencing the defendant to incarceration for 10 years of rehabilitation and is fitted to that sentence. Rehabilitation, my ass. There is no rehabilitation in that place. When you send us to the Department of Corrections, in essence, you're making us more incorrect. There's not a sliver of corrections in that place. Those of us that are telling our stories as a part of this justice project are fairly new to this whole idea of restorative justice. But we know that telling the truth and taking responsibility for the harm that we have caused is a big part of that. And we have reflected as a group in our writing process on that harm. But we are also asking the criminal justice system itself to sit down in a circle among us and to hear the ways that we have been harmed, because it itself has been criminal in the name of justice. Thank you.
Man, again, a pleasure and honor. I can hear those stories over and over. Y'all really, man. It's a mercy for us to be here and for our kids to be here and for us to be here all together. And all of us were somebody's baby, right?
Straight up.
And we were all 10 years old at some point or 5 years old, imagining who we would be and what we would be when we grew up. And I imagine that some of those things didn't turn out the way that we thought. Let's just remember that we have the ability to make changes at any time. We have the ability to ask for help at any time. We have the ability to work with other people to let them know what we need that can facilitate change at any time. And please, let's make a practice out of not judging people for the things that they've done. But when people are showing us who they are, let's respect that, right? Because can anybody imagine if you still had to be with who you dated in middle school? Or
even got the judge laughing right now.
Or even high school, or even college, or even a couple months ago. He ain't worth it, girl. Let him go. But I want you to imagine that somebody is holding you to the character that you had at 12 years old right now, right? If you saw a teacher, you're a grown-up now, 40 years old, 50 years old, and you see a teacher, and they tell somebody, never any good. I seen it back then, and I see it now. And you're like, but I'm a judge now. They're like, I remember that time in middle school, and that's who you really are. Right? It's not fair. It's not fair to hold people to who they had to be in those environments. But it is respectful to honor people for who they want to be. Let's make sure that we do that in these situations. And with that, this will be our final song. Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys for letting us be your guests. It's a privilege and an honor. All right, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been now rocking with the best.
When I was 10 years old, I had a dream I could fly. I've been trying to do it ever since then. And I know one day if I build up enough speed to take off, I could catch the wind. Though they say it's impossible, I don't know the science, I don't know the how or when. But nobody, not ever, no way, no how's gonna ever tell me I can.
Possibilities are endless, sky's not the limit. I'm gonna do what I can to free your spirit. Reach out, stay committed to my culture, deeply rooted. Brothers, sisters, we gon' make it, you better believe. This is dedicated to the sadness and pain felt by everyone in the world. This ain't a game, yo, I see so many people hurt, cry with no shame. Felt like they were on a bottom, shackled and chained. And I wish I could bring a change before the day's over. But now all year round, nights and days are at least it's how I feel if you stay around my corner. That's why I always be here if ever you need a shoulder.
Only I could fly, I'd fly away. I'd fly up past the sky and into space. Past the moon in all its shining grace. I would turn up the sun to give you brighter days.
Let's take it back one time. When I was
10 years old,
I had a
dream I could fly.
I've been trying to do it ever since then. And I know one day if I build up enough speed to take off,
I could catch the wind.
And on behalf of Modus Theater, I want to express my gratitude to our sponsors and funders, as well as my fellow Modus monologues for sharing your stories of injustice, resistance, and resilience in Modus's powerful contributing artists, including the ReMINDers and Modus Theater's artistic director, the lovely Kirsten Wilson. Now, can I get everybody who's involved in the presentation to come up here? We want to take a picture and we want to do a final bow before we get into the panel.
that you can count on me. Yes, yes, yes. Hey,
I'll be there.
and you know that you can count on me.
Cause I'll be there.
No matter where you
No matter where you are, I'll be there.
I'm just a true friend, looking out for your best interest. No hated motive, sincerely care. Allah's my witness.